Greg Phil, the National Director of Safety at the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator. Thanks for joining us on Flow.
Pleasure, Ricky.
We obviously have a big harvest coming up, the ABARES estimates, and what we're hearing across the land is that in South Australia, Victoria, New South Wales, where we broadcast, a lot of trucks are going to be on the road. We need to make sure they're safe.
Yeah, we do, Ricky, and it's great to see the grain harvest this year in many areas hitting record highs. I know down South Australia, places like the Eyre Peninsula and York Peninsula, etc., they'll be seeing a lot of action. So there are lots of trucks on the road. We've also there's a bit of shortage of labour across the industry as well. Drivers and people on different farming machinery, people at the mills, the different transport areas. So that puts other pressures on the system. And for some areas, a lot of this machinery, trucks, etc., isn't used for several months. So it's coming out of shed, coming out of maintenance, and so there's a lot of things that we should be focusing on, particularly with this sector to make sure everyone is safe.
Yeah, in the end, I guess there will be some element of compliance through policing authorities to make sure trucks are being operated in a safe way. But what's a good way farmers in particular with their machinery and trucks can be ahead of that by making sure their vehicle's safe?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I suppose first and foremost, it's making sure your vehicles are maintained. Sometimes you leave jobs over the period, since it's the last harvest. So, well, look, I'll get to that next time. It's really important, get them started, get them running, making sure all of the maintenance and repairs are done up to scratch before you bring them actually out in the field and put them on the roads. That's really important. As well, I suppose it's also planning to think about who's going to operate these on the public road. Fatigue is an issue that, it's an important one that we can't overlook. And so you must monitor how many hours, people are going to work if they're in a truck. Sometimes we have people who are working on harvesters and other equipment in the field, and then jumping in a truck and driving a significant distance, to a port facility or grain silo facility to unload. So making sure that you're following your fatigue provisions is really important. We don't want any driver, any person falling asleep at the wheel and doing damage to themselves or worse, others. That's significant.
Yeah, we spoke to the head of the Grain Growers Limited not that long ago. He's from Quambatook in Victoria, and he said, look, one of the concerns they have with the farm labour shortage across the board is that when you've got a crop and it needs to be moved, you're going to see farmers potentially just doing it all themselves and just going around the clock, and that's really what you're getting at there.
You're absolutely spot on, Ricky. We've seen it in the past, and whilst grain harvest, I come from the country myself, and you consider the grain harvest and some of those other pastoral activities a 24/7 job when it's hot. When the harvest is on, so to speak. And so, but you must look at it as a way that you're thinking about, well, when am I going to get a rest? When am I going to get those other players? Particularly with the shortage of labour, people are talking about. They're getting people who've retired for a while, younger folk.
Well, there's a call out on Facebook for extra military personnel to help out because they're used to running heavy machines.
I know, everyone. And so making sure that they're trained and they understand how to safely operate the machinery is one of those big things as well, Ricky. And that's why we're advocating that all farmers and other people involved in the chain, I suppose, for heavy vehicle transport, you should have some sort of formal safety management system in place. One of the biggest benefits of that absolutely is that you have procedures or processes that you can quickly pass on to new labour hire that comes into the company, even if it's for a number of months. And you say, look, here's how you need to do this in the proper way, service the material, do your daily check, walk around the truck, here's how you operate the machinery, do this, do that. You can do it in a repeatable way. Sometimes the owners who might have 20 years experience who are fantastic at doing this stuff, they're not around. They're having a kip, while other people out there are doing the stuff because they're trying to catch a few Zs to get ready for the next day themselves. So having a systemic approach in place is one of those beneficial things that everyone can adopt and embrace pretty easily. And we've got a new system to help them do that.
Yeah, and as the regulator, you're not just saying these are the rules. There's a funding program to provide training to people that can get some advice and some help on how to get that done. I notice you're doing something with Grain Producers SA, something that's being announced today.
Yeah, that's right. It's a without taking too much of the sting out of the media statement that's coming out today, but essentially it's a project that that's being helped to finance with Grain Producers SA, which is essentially going to build better training and more direct training and advice and tools and those types of things to producers and other industry stakeholders. And that's the most important thing. And it it builds on previous education campaigns that Grain Producers SA has done, I think, around chain of responsibility. So I think it's a really worthy project. It's really targeted to SA. It's a good local one. And the outcome is that better education advice to those people that need it.
And that's good for those that can attend that sort of thing in person, but there's been serious challenges in Victoria and New South Wales with lockdowns being able to attend. Is it something that can be delivered online or is delivered online in some instances, or it really has to be in-person training?
No, the intention these days, I think, Ricky, is to do a lot more online. I think everybody has got that message, and that's why we do any conferences, any other interactions with industry players. If we can't do it online, if we can't do it electronically, then it's probably not going to be delivered. So we've had to make that change. One of those other things that we've also produced is this new 9-step SMS roadmap. It's an online process, free. You don't need any money to subscribe to it, and it's also an easy step-by-step process that people, even if they haven't delved into developing a safety management system themselves, they're just starting off, they want to formalise something, it's absolutely a go-to product, easy to do, and it just walks you through it. And you can even download templates and forms and those sorts of things, put in your own logo, put in your own name of your truck, and fill it out yourself. But there's lots of worked examples and stuff. They're very easy to access on our NHVR website.
Yeah, well, what is the address for that website if someone wants to look that up?
Yeah, just at www.nhvr.gov.au. And but if you just Google NHVR, it'll come up there. And on the front page, it talks about SMS, safety management systems. But you can go through the different areas for safety and accreditation. It'll just take you to them. But there's a big banner on that front page, the bottom of the front page at the moment, Ricky, that'll help you just go straight in there.
Yeah, Greg, Phil, just lastly, there's a lot of carrot there in terms of all the help that's been provided to be compliant. Is there some stick as well in terms of compliance that's going to happen on the roads during the harvest?
Well, we're always focused on making sure that bad things don't happen. That's really important. The great news is that a very high percentage of our farmers and operators out there, they're doing the right thing. Regrettably, there's a cohort, a component that aren't doing that, sometimes due to other pressures. And if you do the wrong thing, then there's a good chance you're going to get caught. But we don't want to see that happen. And in my view, if you work safe, if you plan for these things, do things the right way, then good compliance follows. So we just encourage everyone to do the right thing. And as I said before, maintain those vehicles and particularly think about fatigue. It's such an important thing. And as well, if you've got contractors coming onto your property, that's always a big thing these days. Make sure you've got safe access. Tell them what you need. Make sure that they're going to be safe when they're acting on there as well. Super important.
Yep, absolutely. As always, prevention's better than cure. Great to be talking with you, Greg Phil from the Heavy Vehicle Regulator. Appreciate your input.
Always a pleasure.